hello, everybody. It's Mystery Monday, and welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa with our beautiful Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta. How are you, Monet? How are you, Bryce?
Good.
Awesome. Good.
So happy that we're back here again, and after the 30-day challenge, the shadow work challenge, really went well. So happy to have shared some of the prizes or awards. What do you call it? Prizes? Is
Prizes.
that,
Yeah. I mean, the real
yeah,
prize is that you finished the challenge and you got to work on
exactly.
yourself. That's the real prize. But yeah, we did a random drawing and 4 people won opportunities to work with you guys.
Yeah. And they've all already busy. They're all busy doing their thing. So very grateful, and I so look forward to having you guys. Really very excited to be sharing with you. And we, as you know, as you well know, we're planning our next one coming up, which we will talk about later. Anyway, yay! So today we with the Emerald Tablets, the third of the Emerald Tablets, part two of the third of the Emerald Tablet, because it's a long one.
It's a
So I'm
long
really
one.
forward to hearing about this one, Brycey. How are you, by the way? How
I'm
was your
so
weekend? How was your week?
It was really good. I'm just, it's everybody's in a good mood this time of year. Regardless of what the controllers have done to these holidays, most people are in a really good mood and happy. And so, I'm good. I'm excited. I know Santi and I were talking beforehand about doing something with the winter solstice for the 108 salutations, which we'll let you guys know more about that later on. So we've got some fun stuff up our sleeves for this time of year. It's I always say it's common sense, right? Darkness can't create anything. Nothing. It can create nothing. It can only steal, mimic, and invert. And so this time of year that I think a lot of truthers are very hesitant about now because of what the controllers have done, it was our time of year first.
Yeah.
So we're going to transmute it and change it back. What's that line from the book Thief? When the world steals something from you, you just steal it back. You take it back. We're taking it back. So we're gonna turn this into something good. So I'm excited. But yes, the third tablets, guys. Like I said last week, and if you guys missed, there's multiple episodes we've done over this leading up to the third tablet. The good thing about these tablets, though, is I'm not seeing that they necessarily have to be read in order, because each tablet has its own crux and its own potency. But the first two tablets, if you guys can remember, were more about like who Thoth is, what's going on, the fall of Atlantis, what happened to us, which I've said, it's so crazy. All these people think we're in the apocalypse right now. And I'm like, yo, the apocalypse already happened and we lived through it. So we're done. We're done. That's good news.
Yeah.
The fall of Atlantis was the actual apocalypse. And so if you guys remember, basically we see in these tablets that Thoth refers to us, the people, as barbarians. And he doesn't refer to us in that way as like a mean or derogatory way. What he's specifying is who we were before the fall of Atlantis and who we are now after the fall of Atlantis. Because when Atlantis fell, when it was flooded out, not just Noah and his family survived. There was pockets of people who went high into the mountains, the Himalayas, the Pyrenees, the Appalachian Mountains, all over the world. They went high up and survived. A lot of people didn't survive, but a lot of people did. But some phenomenon happened where those that survived went through amnesia. And so basically before Atlantis fell, we were living in this like Mac Daddy, ultra fancy world where we probably had jets and like flying cars and all that kind of stuff. I mean, still even today, our world is primitive compared to what Atlantis was like. And we were able to access this machinery and these techniques because we understood as humans on this earth, we understood where we came from, that we were a combination of all these galactic beings. The Bible even speaks about this with the Watchers and the Elohim and the Anunnaki, all that kind of stuff, that we were a combination of all these different galactic of galactic origins. And just to remind you guys, so Lemuria was before Atlantis, and Lemuria was before the time of confusion. Well, what does that mean? In Atlantis, when the Anunnaki came, we have some Anunnaki who were good and some Anunnaki who were bad. We walked into the world of polarization, which is what we're still in, and which is needed in order for us to make choices and to find that friction. And so some of the Anunnaki were bad, some of them were good. And we saw that in the first tablet, where Thoth was a child of, some say, Zeus, who was an Anunnaki, who was for the good, who wanted to love humanity and wanted humanity to have liberation. And they had set up the template of Atlantis to be almost like the perfect template to find enlightenment, you know. And so that's kind of, and then when Atlantis fell, because as we know karmically, as we saw from the very first template, or the very first tablet, he says, I, Thoth the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass to the halls of Amenti, set down for guidance for those who are to come after. That's us again. So our world right now is mirroring the world that existed before the fall of Atlantis. And what happened with Atlantis is that the darkness, it's like a seesaw. The darkness took too much control, and so it drowned out Atlantis. Now we're back in that like kind of seesaw, finding that fulcrum point again. The Hathor is called the fulcrum point to now move up into the light. And so when he was referring to us as barbarians, it's because when he came down, he realized that his fellow countrymen of the Atlanteans, we didn't remember who we were, and we went back to living in caves. We forgot that we were the sons and daughters of these other galactic beings, these other galactic forces. And so he's now writing everything down in these tablets, and he sends them into the halls of Amenti, which to me sounds very much like Agartha, to be guarded by priests and priest kings for us, so that the emerald tablets would come about and be released again when it was time. And what does he mean by us? He means that we had to go through a certain amount of reincarnations in lives and deaths in order to finally, for our consciousness and our soul to finally start to remember. And it's not like we totally remember, but we know. We have an inner knowing now. I think the three of us probably have that knowing. A lot of our viewers have that knowing. We don't remember specifically everything about Atlantis, but we know it. We know that's, I mean, most of you guys who woke up in the last few years and started finding people on YouTube because you're like, something's not right, because you had that gnosis of knowing. And so that's what Thoth is saying. And so the first two tablets were, again, kind of the who, what, where, why. Like, what happened? Who is Thoth? Again, once again, I'll remind you guys, Thoth never called himself a god. He just called himself a son of Atlantis. That's all. So he never proclaimed to be a deity. It's us humans that deify certain people, right? They never claimed it themselves. So the third tablet, and why it may take us a few episodes to get through, is called the Key of Wisdom. And so every verse in this tablet is a big one. And so that's why might take a while to get through it, because we need to talk about this. We need to discuss this. We need to discuss this with our viewers, because this is what this is for. This is the commentary, right? And so we left off last week where we talked about how you cannot have true power without wisdom. We've seen people in our world with power and no wisdom, or if they know the wisdom, they don't use it, right? Because the true power comes with that wisdom of understanding, of compassion. You know, I said last week, there's that famous saying, a wise man once said nothing. You know, true power knows when to back away. You know, it's like when you're seeking a spiritual teacher. Like I put this in the 30-day challenge. What's the difference between a cult leader, a controller, and a teacher? What's the difference? Well, the teacher is going to back away. The teacher is going to teach you what they know, but also back away when it's time to back away. Like my teacher in India has no idea where we live. He doesn't help us find places to live. He doesn't help us with food. We just show up for classes. That's it. And so, and then he kind of stops that lionization that most teachers don't want to be lionized. They don't want, you know, they want you to find the power within yourselves. A teacher's job is to one day not be needed, right? And so that is kind of that whole wisdom and power. It's like, I don't know if you, and I'm sorry guys, my nose is running a lot. It's very rainy outside. And because Mr. B is president, we can't afford tissue anymore. So we're using toilet paper. So the classy life I live over here. So it's all glam in Hollywood over here, guys. Let me tell you. With my toilet paper. So we see that. We see, you know, I was talking with my friend Tamara in Australia, and over here in the United States, we had, when it was kind of worldwide, there was this group called Nexium. And they got popped. Keith Raniere got popped for all the dirty deeds that the controllers do. He's now in prison. Terrible. But I was talking with Tamara about it. And if you look at Nancy Salzman's work and the work in Nexium, a lot of that work is what we're seeing. And it is valuable work. But Keith Raniere abused it. He abused it. And so this is what we're seeing so heavily in the first part of the Emerald, the third tablet, which we spoke about last week. Again, if you are a student of yoga, most times with the Yoga Sutras, they will only teach the first and second pada to a student for the first 10 to 15 years, because the third and fourth pada is where it gets dangerous. Because if you are not a humble person, if you are not a compassionate person, if you don't have that humility about you, then you can take the information and manipulate it. And that's what we see that the controllers, the Lucys, do. They take the information. They take the Eye of Horus. They take the pyramids. They take these things that were supposed to be used for good, and they twist and manipulate it, right? So that's where we see this is, and that's why I think the first part of this third tablet is so important, especially for us moving forward, is to understand that true power cannot exist without true wisdom. And so when we start looking for leaders, and I think our whole idea of leadership is going to change anyway. I don't think there's going to be any more career politicians, but we look for people with that wisdom that aren't there for the glory of themselves, but are literally there because they want to contribute to the betterment of humanity, right? Because that's where that wisdom and power lies. They don't want to control you. They just want to help you. Right. So, and that's the hard thing. I know Shanti probably feels this with, and Mornay too, when you have clients, like, at what point, and I've had conversations with other yoga teachers, at some point, you do have to step back and let karma take its place. You cannot, as a teacher, you cannot interrupt your students' karma. A lot of teachers try to, but you can't do it. You have to give the advice, teach the practice, and then step back. Right? And so that's where that wisdom comes from, that wisdom. We also talked about, Doriel says, the proud person is not wise, but foolish, for pride causes the proud one to reject learning, for he measures all things by his own rules and standards. Well, we see this hardcore. And I keep saying right now, it's like an open book test. Like, this is like so obvious. We have our friends and family who were duped by Dr. F, and all the evidence is out there, but they're still doubling down.
Yeah.
Because of pride.
Absolutely.
Right. And there are some people who have been like, oops, I'm sorry, you were right. You know, I'm not saying that's everybody, but we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that in our society. For silence is golden. Talking about evil turns the creative force upon it and gives life to it in actuality. So that's why I, in the beginning, said we're now going to be taking back this holiday season, because we're not going to give in. We're not going to give life force to these powers that be anymore, right? We're going to understand them. We're going to learn about them, but we're going to take our own power back, right? So we also learned last week that cause thou not fear, for fear is bondage, a fetter that binds the darkness to men. This was a big one for me again, because fear is bondage. And it fetters, it's the feather that binds the darkness to men. And so that's something that, you know, when we know better, we do better. And so I think that's something that's really important for us, especially I think for us who have platforms, and for anybody watching right now, to not be out there trying to scare people with the truth, educate people, but also remind them that there is hope, that they are the hope. They are the light at the end, you know, and so that fear is not there to bind you. And so we pick up where we left off, which is the 6th verse of tablet 3. And this is, follow thine heart during thine lifetime. Do thou more than is commanded of thee. When thou hast gained riches, follow thou thine heart, for all these are no avail if thine heart be weary. Diminish thou not the time of following thine heart. It is abhorrent to the soul. They are that guided go not astray. I'll underline this actually. But they that are loose cannot find a straight path. If thou go among men, make for thyself love at the beginning and at the end of the heart. If one cometh unto thee for counsel, let him speak freely, that the thing for which he hath come to thee may be done. If he hesitates to open his heart to thee, it is because thou, the judge, doeth the wrong. And so let's go back and look at Doriel's. So we started with follow thine own heart. If within your hearts so the commands of the master within are the ones to be followed. Do not attempt to objectively do more. And it goes into the riches. Riches are mean to an end, but not the end. So riches are a means. All money is just a means, but it's not the point.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
When the material needs are supplied, the mind and the hearts of the ancients should lead into higher realms. So that's interesting, because when thou hast gained riches, that's what Thoth says, follow thine own heart. For all these are of no avail if thine heart be weary. So if you don't understand that the money, if you've been granted an opportunity to be wealthy in this life, it's not the money that's evil. The money is just a means to an end. And if you're able to take care of yourself financially, then do more things that have to do with the spiritual pursuit of your heart. Because if you're not using that money to be able to help, then it's to no avail. Which is interesting. He talked about this because, I think back to Atlantis and the way Atlantis was, and I don't know, this is just my own assumption. I think there was what we would call wealth, probably, because there was probably flying cars and all that kind of stuff. But I have a feeling that the system that we're on now with money is very much of the controllers doing. And so it's interesting that he picked up on this all these years before we were even where we are now. So I thought that was very interesting that he was able to pick up on what was to come, what was to be.
If we look at, let's look at the heart chakra, okay? And I love this, follow your heart, basically, because when you look in Buddhism as well, really your heart is what they call the brain. So when you follow your heart, you don't make a mistake. But because we've learned that our heart gets broken and our heart is sensitive or caring, or you broke my heart, or whatever the case might be, we learn to shut down the heart chakra, which is the most powerful of all the chakras. In fact, if you look at the energy that comes out of the heart chakra, I think it's either 3 or 5 times. I speak under correction now. It's in my Keys to Integration workshop. We go into that. More powerful than the rest of the chakras in the body. So this is what we say as well. When you go in and you follow your heart, you sit with yourself, you do the inner work. You're not scared to go and heal the wounds, because what we do with our hearts as well, and it's very right what you're saying, Bryce, it's about money is not the issue. It's our choice as to what we do with the money or anything material. Because in the negative way, positively, when the heart radiates, as I said, it's 3 or 5 times more powerful than the rest of the chakras, right? It's like that sun. Rumi says, in every person lives a sun. And that sun radiates so strong and so beautifully, and every cell in your body is just vibrating and radiating, right? But now, obviously, the inverted aspect of that is that we become fearful of not having. So then we then create attachment to things or people. So you can imagine the sun, every ray of the sun in your heart now suddenly is a little attachment and a little octopus foot, if you will, that has attached itself to something, whether it's a deity that you hold, whether it's your mother's favorite earring or statue that you just can't live without, a religion, a person, things, money. And these are the things that weigh us down. It's like these lead antennae, if you will, that weigh us down when we attach our love to material things rather than the spiritual thing. And that is really where God lives. is in the sun within your heart. So I think that is a very beautiful thing, because when we understand that's where God lives, is the sun within the heart, and you follow the heart, you're then following God's guidance, and that's where your inner guidance is. So but we can't have an open heart, right? If it's closed in any way. We can't have God living openly in the heart when it's closed in any way. And this is the tricky thing about the heart chakra. It is the ability to give and receive equally. Yeah. And so people think I've got to give. No, how's the balance there? It's like a seesaw, right? Think about a seesaw. You've got to find that balance, and up, down, and just have a lovely flow of energy going, or you find that perfect place where you just maintain that balance. But think about that. It really is the ability to give to others and receive from others, but mostly to give to myself in a loving way, where I know I'm safe in my heart and I don't have to protect my heart with armor and all sorts of things. And that is a very tricky one. But that's what he's saying there. If you follow your heart, you're following God's guidance.
Yes.
And then there's nothing to fear. And that's why Rumi says, break your heart wide open. I love Rumi. I got to tell you, he's my guy. If Rumi was around, I would be ruminating about marrying him.
You'd have the picture of the poster on your wall in your bedroom of Rumi. Well, it's interesting. As you were saying that, I was thinking, well, the heart chakra, it's the middle one. You have 3 above and 3 below, and it comes out the middle. And with the arms extending out, the chakras are also in the palms of the hand. When a baby is born, when they do skin to skin, where do they put the baby? It goes right for the father and the mother. It goes right on the chest of the father, which I love that they do skin to skin with the father too. Now, I think that's so important that they don't just do it with, I know the mother does it first, but then they also put it on the father's chest as well with the baby, with his bare chest. So the baby is on the chest of the father too, with bare chest. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? Even as messed up as the medical world can be, there are some beautiful parts to it. And that is one of them, that they are now having fathers do that too with their child. Because I know the mother has an attachment, a cord attached to the baby, literally the umbilical cord. But I do think that there is a fatherly instinct as well. And there is I do think fathers, and I think as men, I'll start to balance the divine feminine within themselves as well. Fathers, as we keep going down through time, will start to have that parental, the fatherly instinct as well, to the way the mother does, And so I think that the role of fathers is so important. That is the heart-to-heart contact that the child is feeling.
Do you know, talking about that, I'm sitting here trying to remember where I read this or saw it, but it's been in the last 2 or 3 weeks about boys. And obviously I know there's this whole transgender thing in kids. I'm not talking about that now, but I'm talking about it being okay for even a boy to play with a doll.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we talk about Robert the doll. Yeah.
Yes, because it's about really men most certainly have nurturing skills, right? So it's also, there are guys that really have just all their lives wanted to be fathers. I know men who've just, the only thing they've wanted to do was be a father. So the first opportunity they got, they met a girl, they married her young, and they have like 4 to 5 kids. So they really have embraced that. So I think it's important to be able to understand that as well, because we also taught, oh, boys don't play with dolls. You're not a sissy or whatever it is, Boys play with cars. Yes, boys are naturally, my son, he was crawling maybe 6 or 7 months, and he picked up something on the floor and goes, boom, 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 boom. I looked at this, I was like, what the heck? Where did you even come on that? That to me was fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So there is that natural thing again, but it's also so important because nurturing is the first step, I think, in which love likes to express itself, to show we care for another person. So not to say I love you, but what does love expressed mean to you? a touch, feeding someone, holding them, hugging them, tickling them. It's nurturing, and that's what I'm saying. So it's that first step of holding that child and stroking its back or its head. You know what I'm saying? So that's love. And we've got to teach our kids these things, because to love is to nurture. To love myself is to nurture myself. To love another is to nurture another. And that's where I think many people get it wrong in marriages and relationships, because it doesn't mean you become your partner's parent.
No.
Doesn't mean you marry
Oh
a guy
God, no,
because,
no.
and that's what a lot of us do. So we really have to understand and get that balance between nurturing and really enjoying cooking your partner a meal, or running them a bath, or giving them a massage, or whatever. It's that lovely nurturing that one has in that environment, and learning how to apply that.
It's
Application is key.
and it's so sweet. I was watching this morning. I little like video popped up, just like a little clip of this. I don't know whose account it was. This girl, and with boys too, because she has three brothers, and she got pregnant, and all of her brothers were thinking she was going to have a boy, and they're like, it's going to be a boy. It was a girl, and she videotaped it through the years of her three brothers with their niece, and how gentle and how they wanted this boy nephew, but they got a niece. And like how showed him with like her on the skateboard, and then the kissing her and loving on her, and her little dresses and pigtails. And I thought that is, and yes, and I love that, because that is that nurturing. And men listen, my dad, even though my dad, he used to make my lunches for me when I was in lower school, elementary school, and I so preferred it when my dad made my lunch to my mom, because my dad put fun stuff in my lunchbox. My mom put healthy stuff. So my dad would put a full can of Coca-Cola in my lunchbox. My mom would put water, so
Yeah.
well, when dad made lunch, there were like Cheetos and Coca-Cola. When mom made lunch, there was apples and water, So, and I think about that. That's one of the good memories I do have of my childhood with my dad, was that when dad made lunch, it was exciting, because dad gave me the fun food. It was like a secret, like, don't tell mom. I just intuitively knew not to tell my mom that I had a full Coca-Cola at lunch. In the 5th grade, I do have a memory once of when we lived, when my dad was in vet school. It snowed one time when we lived in Athens, Georgia. And I remember my dad sitting outside in the front yard. It probably wasn't that much snow, but in my head, it was a lot of snow. And he made a snow fort for my Barbies, and played with me with my Barbies. So yeah, you're right. These nurturing, I think that, and with the following the heart, I think and I've said this before, as we've been going through the Return of the Divine Sophia, they keep calling a patriarchal society, a patriarchal society, a patriarchal society. I'm like, I don't really at this point think we've actually been in a patriarchal. I think we've been in a Luciferian one. Because you cannot have the divine masculine without the divine feminine. You cannot have the divine feminine without the divine masculine. You pull one away, the other one is not it's in its proper placement. And so the male aggressiveness we've seen is not because of patriarchal, it's because the feminine has been taken away. And so
and I think it's so important, sorry, just on that note, and I think it's so important to recognize, when people like ourselves get called New Age, okay? Firstly, that's so not who and what we are. We work with the most ancient principles around. Nothing New Age about that. We just maybe using the words in a modern day language. That's the difference, right? Mm-hmm. So, everyone is talking about the divine feminine, the divine feminine, the divine feminine, forgetting, and it's exactly what you're saying, that in order for the divine feminine to be, the divine masculine has to hold the space in order for her to arise. So those of us who think that being a woman's liber and kicking a man under his ass because all men are idiots are so wrong.
Yeah.
Because in order for a woman to feel safe enough to express her divine now, especially after so many years of suppression, energetically, the space would have had to have been created by the divine masculine. Remember, male energy gives structure, right? feminine energy flows. So the structure would have needed to be right for the feminine energy to start flowing. So those of us who think, oh, men are this, you are part of the problem. We cannot have a beautiful world without beautiful men. And there are many beautiful men out there who have created the space, who are not out to hurt and harm women. That's part of the psyop. That's a false flag, whatever they call it. Yes, there are. We are constantly shown about these merciless men, you know. But I want to tell you, I am blessed to know very beautiful men. My father was 6'6". He was known as the gentle giant. Kids and animals loved him. And even though he was a farmer and he had to slaughter and stuff like that, I saw him with these animals and how he did it and the way in which he did it. So that for me showed me what a man can be. Was he perfect? No. But we as women have got to stop this nonsense. We have got to see the beauty of the male that has created the space for us in which we can express ourselves. We're blind to that. We're blind to that. And if we still think that a man is out to get us, then we're still operating from our pain body. And when you're still operating from your pain body, you then haven't healed as a feminine completely. So I'm saying, you know, and especially now when we look at all what's going on right now, the male is under severe attack as well. So is the feminine. You get all these guys. When you're looking, men are under severe attack. I love men, and I love that a man goes out and builds and does and creates and all of these things, and he can come back and be cool, you know, and a woman can have all these other things that, you know, we're two counterparts that come together. So if you think a man is out to hurt you, that's because you haven't understood that you are still hurting yourself. And if you are still hurting yourself as a feminine, you will attract a man who still wants to hurt you. Bam. It's that simple.
And I love that. I love men too. I love men. Love men.
Yeah.
And there's nothing sexier than seeing a man who's strong and can protect a family, but then sitting down and playing tea party with their daughter or their nieces.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
like that's so beautiful. Like that's so, you know, and I love that. And I feel the same way. There was a huge discussion online about, because every teacher I've had in Ashtanga yoga has been male. All of them have been male. They've been heterosexual males, but not once, besides one situation with the person that wasn't really my teacher, did I ever feel like there was any type of dominance or any type of inappropriate. It was always a teacher. This person was a teacher of mine, and he valued me as a student just as much as the male student. You know, even in India, where India sometimes gets a little bit with men and women, but my teacher in India, he even laughs. There's a transition in second series that women always get help with because of the way our bodies are built, and men don't. But he'll laugh and say, my female students do it better without help than my male students. You know, so there's a strength that he honors, and there's a strength in women that isn't necessarily being honored. And yeah, absolutely that balance. But that is the heart too. Like, you know, as you're talking about that as well. You know, a lot of the Divine Sophia books, and we talk about this, the macro, what we see in our natural world is always a mirror of the micro. And so even though I'm a woman, Shanti's a woman, Mornay's a man, even though we embody one of the two energies, which we learned last week, that's one of the laws of the two energies, we still, as individual people, have both energies within us.
Right. Yin and yang, male and female. Mm-hmm.
And that's the two nostrils. The left nostril is the feminine, the right nostril is the masculine, and they weave in or out through the body around Sushumna. And so a lot of these divine feminine are these the Divine Sophia books talk about, it's not just balancing the exterior world of masculine and feminine, but it's first of all balancing that within yourself. Being able as a woman to carry the dominant energy of woman, but balance the masculine too. And for a man, that's what I'm talking about with the men, starting to rediscover that feminine and being able to be sensitive to their children, hold their children, but also go out there and plow the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the personality threat their family, you know, but yet sit there with their big bulky muscles and play tea party with their little 4-year-old daughter in her princess costume.
I saw such a cute Facebook meme not too long ago, where this really butch daddy with a beard and everything is sitting there, and he has a little tutu on, sitting with a little pink tutu, and he's having a tea party with his little 3-year-old. And it says there, you could be so badass, you could be this real badass daddy, but hey, when your 3-year-old calls,
you put that tutu on.
Yeah.
There was a picture a few years ago. A dad would take his daughter to the movies every time and we know Disney, whatever, but that's beside the point. Whenever a new like princess movie would come out, the dad would dress up as the prince character, and his little daughter would put her little princess costume on, and they would go to the movies. And that man would sit there in the movies with these costumes on with his daughter watching these movies. And how sweet is that? It's so sweet. And that's that. But what we're seeing is that men in our generation and in this timeline are starting to reestablish that balance within themselves between the feminine and the masculine, to now pull the feminine and the masculine up in that perfect harmony, because they are different energies, but they're the yin and the yang. They can't live without each other.
Can you see how that it's supposed to be the things we're talking about now is now being inverted by the Lucy's when it comes to this whole transgenderism?
Yep.
Right.
I was going to point that out. Yep. Because darkness can't create anything, and it can only steal. So source God, real God, the creator God, gave us these 2 nostrils that represent the 2 different energies, and he created us in perfect harmony within ourselves so that our universe would be in perfect harmony. But the Lucy's, because they can't create jack shit, came in and said, we're going to invert this.
I love it. I so love that when we can take these principles and see them in action as it's happening, this, guys, is so important. If we can see what's happening here, the way it's intended, I believe, the way that God has intended for us to be at this stage, especially at these end times or the beginning of the new age, or the age of Aquarius, whatever, is for us to bring our divine masculine and feminine together, the yin and yang within. So I've been saying this for a very long time. When you look at the body, the right side of your body is the masculine side, the left side is the feminine side. Okay, so the right side, the masculine energy asserts, feminine energy receives. And even if you are left-handed, you're still going to find that it's still going to work in that way, right? So let's think about that. So all of us out there looking to meet our twin flame, right? And looking for our hero and what have you, looking for that in another person. And relationships are so bad, and men are this and women are that, and oh my gosh. So again, it's the heart chakra that's now got these attachments, the lead, looking for love outside of yourself, right? So when we have now understood that, and we bring together our yin and yang, so you can assert and receive and flow and create and act and be all of these symbiotically together with yourself. In other words, when your yin and yang, when your masculine and feminine has married each other within you, in other words, IQ and EQ are now talking, because throat chakra, throat, neck is the bridge between IQ and EQ, right? So when we learn how to bring the 2 together, we then express ourselves in a very constructive way, where masculine and feminine within you are now in harmony, right? You're not fighting yourself anymore. And it's at that point you've met your own twin flame within. That's what we talk, meeting your own twin flame. And when you are complete in that way, where you don't need another, but you choose another, then you'll meet the other that has met their twin flame too. And then you will have your twin flame who's already met their twin flame, and 2 beautiful twin flames hang out and chill together, right? That's what it's about. So it's really understanding the love that is inside of you is really what you need. Every part of your body means something.
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
understand that, and when you understand every fucked up relationship that you've had in your life has been your creation, not because you're so bad or you want to punish yourself, it's really some symbolic, if you will, of what's happening within you. So
Yeah.
when you heal your heart within, right, you heal everything around you as well. God has a magical, mystical, wonderful way of then having things just heal themselves. Suddenly, broken relationships, you find closure, or suddenly they apologize, or you get a letter, or something happens that you just dissolve that away. But
Yeah.
it always comes back to me,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I would love to add with you, Shanti, what you just said. Because as me, as a little kid, I will just imagine it. We always have the perfect partner within ourselves, our masculine and feminine, our twin flame within ourselves. So as we get to learn our feminine side and masculine side, I want to play. I played with Barbie dolls and unicorns. What's it? And My Little Ponies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want my Ninja Turtles and my dinosaurs and everything with them. So it was like I was balancing those energies. So it's okay if you go through that phase, but what they're doing right now is like as soon as you do that, now you're getting labeled.
Yep.
And it starts manipulating that energy. It's crazy. So you can play with a Barbie. It doesn't mean you're gay or anything. It means you're going through a phase and you're playing and you're experimenting with your own inner feminine or masculine energies.
Yeah.
And after that, it's all gone again. Right now, they're really using. I don't know how to say it. They're using this understanding, this knowing that we have both masculine and feminine inside of ourselves, and trying to manipulate
Yes.
our kids to go
Well,
into
let's.
a
Yeah.
direction. So
I mean,
now, just because you have a Barbie face, now you transgender. No, no, no,
yeah.
no. Just because you have a Barbie face is that you want your GI Joes to rescue a Barbie. Maybe it's just
GI
that.
Joe thinks Barbie's pretty cute.
Yeah, exactly. So
But
you
let's.
kind of like,
Yeah.
you kind of
Let's look at this.
preparing G.I. Joe.
Well, let's look at this too. So we know that knowledge is power and knowledge protects. So if I had never gone to India, if I had never studied these yoga sutras, I would have never known that as a woman, a straight heterosexual woman, that I also carry masculine energy too. I would have never known that. I would have never known about the nostrils. I would have never known about the energetic body. So many people across the world, especially in the Western world, don't know this. And so they're able then to manipulate that because they don't know that their son, when their son, who's going vroom vroom with the truck, also wants to pick up the baby doll and rock the baby,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
him expressing his own paternal
Yeah.
instinct. And
Yeah.
people don't know that. And so it's like I have a nephew and two nieces. My oldest nephew and niece are very close in age. My sister was already pregnant with Jacqueline at Charlie's first birthday. That's how close in age they are. But then my sister and her husband had a lockdown baby too. That is 9 years apart from Charlie, the oldest. So in May, the youngest baby was born, who is a little over a year now. Out of Jacqueline and Charlie, do you know the little boy and the little girl, which child has been more attentive to May? Charlie has. Jacqueline's like, whatever. And she just goes off and plays. But Charlie's the one that wants to rock May. Charlie's the one that wanted to help my sister feed May. Charlie's the one. And Charlie's also got his trucks and his blocks. And he is a huge Lego guy. He pooped his pants once playing Lego when he was potty training because he didn't want to leave his toys by themselves, when he was 9, when May was born, as a 9-year-old little boy, he wanted to help my sister with the baby. And now they have a very sweet relationship, May and Charlie. Jacqueline loves her too, but she was the little girl was more like, I'm gonna go flip outside on the trampoline. She was like, it's fine. Oh, she's crying again. It's fine. But that's was Charlie expressing. Charlie's also very sensitive. That was him expressing his paternal instincts. I guarantee you Charlie's going to be one of those kids that when he is older, he's going to be excited about having his own family. More so than maybe Jack, I could totally see him being that older, he's in his 20s, being excited about actually being a dad. So he's very sensitive, and he's very much a little boy too.
Yeah, I've been babysitting my little we've got two brothers that's 10 years younger than me. So I was like their babysitter. And when you talk about the paternal instincts, it's both that feminine and masculine. It's like that nurturing that Chantal was speaking about, that nurturing, that's a feminine side,
Yep.
And then the protective side, the masculine. It's like, so it's both combined. So if you have like a kid that's maybe more connected with nurturing, it doesn't mean that now is a trance or something like that.
No.
That's more protective. We both have that energies within ourselves that I think a lot of people don't understand.
They
and
don't
if you
understand.
don't understand that, then it's manipulative.
Yes.
Very manipulative. Especially in today's world with LGBTQ plus E.
The alphabet people. The alphabet people. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think about too, as you're thinking too, like even when I was growing up, I always wanted a brother. But looking back, I'm glad I never had a brother, because my father, if I had had a brother that showed that kind of nurturing, my father probably would have beat the shit out of him. Because my dad was not raised, my dad was raised to be the tough, and a boy's got to be tough. And so if he had had a son that was a little sensitive, not understanding that is actually a child expressing their own, or how many little girls go and get trucks or baseballs. And, we used to call them tomboys. Now no one's a tomboy anymore. They're just labeled as trans, and they're just tomboys, So I'm glad we kind of paused on this, because that is true, Shanti. I've thought about that. Like once you understand energetic body from an intellectual, we're all still working on healing it ourselves, but from an intellectual perspective, once you understand that energetic body of masculine, feminine, you can see exactly what the bad guys are doing. And you know exactly how they're inverting the truth. It's an inversion of the truth. It's the Baphomet of the truth.
Absolutely.
And then you have people who don't know, and so now you have this swing in the truther community where people think it's just all bad, and it's like, no, darkness can't create anything. So everything is an invert. So if you see this agenda with the alphabet people, you got to then pull the layers back to find where the truth is, because they've taken it from something and they've inverted it. So the truth is. And then with the heart, as Thoth is saying, that's coming. So this cycle of energy is coming through that heart center. Again, the heart, when we talked about when we did a breakdown of the chakra, Shanti, a while ago, we did the hands, because the hands are both extensions
of the
heart. You've got a right hand, you've got a left hand.
You love, you hug, or you push away.
Yes.
You receive or you reject with your heart, right?
We see when he's talking about following the heart. You probably see this. I've laughed about it. I punched Keno McGregor's husband, Tim Feldman, coming out of a deep back bend called Kapotasana once, because I was so triggered. He pulled me into it, and I came out and just smacked him. That's the only person I've ever hit my whole entire life. But we look at back bending, right? That's opening this. That's what that's doing. Is it's a back bend is not really a back bend. It's the stomach and front opening.
I have the entire dove community flying around my house now. Give me a moment.
That's very symbolic. Doves are God's birds, right?
4 of them in here now. Give me a moment. Carry on.
I love that, because I know Jesse's talked about how like ravens and crows are symbolism of the dark cult of the cabal. They use ravens and crows to show you that they're dark. And then doves, and I'm going to say ravens and crows themselves are not dark, just like goats and owls are not dark. They've just been used by the cabal. But doves, they're for the light. And I love that she gets doves in
Yeah,
her
no.
house because it's like a god wink. It's totally a god wink.
And not one or two, it's a whole freaking family just came in there.
That's so awesome. I just love it.
They are so, the thing is, as we say in South Africa, they are so windgat. They're so like arrogant. They come strutting in through the kitchen door, peck, 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 peck. They eat the cat's food. They walk around. They come check out the seed, and then something sometimes frightens one, and then they can't get out. They know exactly how to get in and out, but now and again they'll
I
get
love
caught.
that. We just get roaches in our house. I want to get doves. I think that'd be so cool. Although Robbie would probably freak out if there were a dove in here. But
I, I have 4 guinea fowl as well, a little baby. So now they stand. You might even hear them in the background. They've already been fed today, twice. And now the one stands and he's demanding more food. So yeah, you can see I'm in
I know
a
some humans like that too. So
anyway, lovely, yes.
well, I guess we can finish off with the last little part that I think is, and it kind of sums up what we've been talking about with they that are guided go not astray, but they that are loose cannot find a straight path. If thou go among men, make for thyself love, the beginning and the end of the heart. So that goes back, the verse after that, it goes back with what we're saying, what I was just saying about how if we don't know things, we don't know things. So to have somebody to teach you about the feminine, if you don't have someone to show you things, you're going to go astray, right? So what we were just saying is what Thoth is saying is what we were just saying. Like what I just said, like if you don't know, no one's ever taught you the chakra system or has ever taught you the masculine and feminine, you're going to go astray and you're going to see what the Kabbalah is doing. And you're going to think anybody talking about that is bad because you don't see. It's just, again, it goes back to that knowledge is power, knowledge protects, knowledge is
And
infinite.
it's what Jesus said, know thyself. This is exactly it. Know thyself. Get to understand the chakras, the invisible body, the inner being, the shadow work. Get to know yourself, really. It's
to
amazing.
thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And if you can't take responsibility for your own energy, then you can't blame.
Yeah.
So you have to take responsibility for your own energy. So if go find somebody to teach you, go find the energy. Otherwise, you're just going to be part of a victim in the system.
Yeah.
And being a victim is your own choice in that stage,
Yeah.
I think the energy Earth has shifted so much right now, and there's so much information in this world right now. So if you're still part of that system and you're still part of that black spell, it's your fault. You need to shift your energy and decide. And you're so powerful. I mean, everybody is so powerful. I mean, God has given us that amazing power within ourselves to completely create miracles.
We can levitate and we don't even know it, like that's how, but that goes back. We can actually teleport and we don't know it. Like we're like, oh, but that goes back what you're saying, Amore, to the very beginning where Doriel says when he's talking about wisdom and power, a proud person is not wise, but foolish, for pride causes the proud one to reject the learning. So what you just said, if you can't see it right now, it's because of your own pride and you're rejecting the learning. It's interesting. I don't know if I said it on this channel or my own. I was listening to a Jewish professor speak when I was driving down the floor, and I was listening to a whole lot. This is what I do for fun, guys. I listen to lectures because I'm that much of a nerd. I was listening to a Jewish professor speak about Yahshua, Jesus, and the Messiah, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to hear what his perspective is coming from the Jewish faith. What is his perspective? And I learned so much from this man's talk because he said that the original Jewish prophecy about the coming Savior, and I put that loosely because Savior means to save yourself, was there would be 2 of them. The Christians changed it to 1. They changed the prophecy to fit the narrative. Why did they do that? Who was the second one? You had Yahshua. Who was the second one? Magdalene.
Did he actually acknowledge that?
No, not that, but he said, because he said that Christians changed the prophecy, so therefore the
Yes.
prophecies hasn't been fulfilled. But if
It
you
would
read
have had to be, right? It would have to be one of each,
one of each, and
masculine, feminine.
if you read the missing books of the Bible, which I've done multiple on my channel, it's very clear in the missing books of the Bible who Magdalene was. She was the other Christ. They worked together.
Has to be.
Has to
Has to be. There is
Magdalene
no,
manuscript.
think about it. Wow. Think about, logically, there can't be just one. It
There
has to
can't
be.
be.
It has to be the both of the uprising
Both.
of the both, the divine masculine and the divine
And
feminine.
do you know who was activated first? Who figured it out first?
The girls.
The girl, Magdalene. In the
Yeah.
Magdalene manuscript, it talks about this. She activated Joshua.
It makes sense because the wife takes the woman, takes the man closer to his spiritual side, while the man protects the wife so that she can teach him about the spiritual
Well,
side.
there's that Cherokee saying that it's beautiful. I've posted it on Facebook so many years in a row now. It says, the purpose of a woman is to lead a man back to his divine spirit. And the purpose of the man is to ensure that the woman can walk the earth free and unharmed.
And that
So-
no greater relationship demonstrated that than Joshua's and Magdalene's.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so when this man a Jewish professor was speaking, he was going off the canonized Bible saying, no, that's why in Jewish faith, Jesus, as they call him, was not the promised savior because there was only one of him. But I knew from studying the missing books of the Bible that, oh, no, because in the missing books of the Bible, there are two of them. Very
But
much so.
isn't
There are
this
two.
like, and we talk about the Luciferians as well, with this Antichrist, there's this whole big thing on the bride of Christ. And I'm even looking, if you think about it, on Jessie's Twitter and stuff, for a while she's been talking about, look at the woman, look at the woman, look at the woman. You know, Jessie points us in directions all the time. And so it would make sense that there's a woman president as well.
Yeah, for the evil
with the
too.
whole rising of the Antichrist, which is now called the Bride of Christ, which would make perfect sense. Because if we, again, giving rise to the divine feminine as well as the masculine, and it can't just be the masculine. You see, this is the deception. It's probably a feminine. It's probably a feminine. If you're looking at the whole, the Kabbalah I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they have to mirror everything. Everything is a mirror. Everything's a mirror. Yeah. And it's interesting if you read the Magdalene manuscript, Magdalene. So we see their wedding in the Bible. It's the wedding where Joshua turned water into wine. That was their wedding. Magdalene and Joshua's wedding. When the exorcising of the 7 demons, she laughed about that in the Magdalene manuscript. That was, he cleaned her chakras and she cleaned his. She did it to him too. They reikied each other with their the seven demons. Those were the 7 chakras being cleaned.
Yeah.
And they did it with each other. She did it to him. He did it to her. As husband and wives do. And in the missing books of the Bible, I remember the first thing when I first started going down this journey that I found very interesting from the missing, one of the biggest things in the missing books of the Bible that's not in the canonized Bible or has been changed in the canonized Bible. Joshua left his organization, we'll say, because I don't think he would have used the word church because church means mind control. So I think he would have said temple or his schools. He left it to his wife. He left it to Magdalene, not to Peter. Peter hated Magdalene. We see that. He was a nasty, nasty man, that Peter. And who did the Vatican build their church upon? Peter. Who did the Vatican destroy and make a prostitute? Magdalene. And I say to these people all the time, if you're, if I had a big business or a big school, I would leave it to my spouse. Especially if they were a part of an equal partner in the business, in the school. Common sense. Yeah. Why were Joshua's kids' names not mentioned in the missing books of the Bible or the canonized Bible, even though there is mention of the children, their names are never mentioned? Well, that's common sense. He was a wanted man. He protected his children and didn't put their names in the scripture. We know one's name is Sarah because she has a gospel that's under the Vatican, but there were 4 other children too who were the Merovingians. Yeah. And it's just beautiful though. When you, and this isn't, when I say this stuff, we're not trying to this is beautiful. I think, to me, understanding that there were 2, Magdalene and Yahshua, there were 2 of them, that makes so much sense.
Totally. It has to. Come on, it has to. How can it just
way
be
more
one?
sense? Because the God I know would have put 2 in, a girl and a boy.
We're living on a planet of polarity, so it has to be.
It has to be. The masculine and the feminine. I know Magdalene has been one of my guides. I audio hear Magdalene. She's way more sassy and alpha than Yahshua. I think she was the one that kept him going. She was the one that was like, no, you go to work now. So, so it just, it was like this epiphany when this Jewish professor said this. I was like, no shit. Riddle me that, Batman. So the church changed the prophecy to fit their narrative because we know that it was infiltrating the teachings of the Christ. And so it had to depolarize. It had to take the balance off, get rid of the feminine. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like, oh,
exactly.
You clever controllers. You are many things. Stupid isn't one of them. But now we see hide and seek. We found you.
Sneaky, and sneaky, and snotty. Yeah. Wow. Very, very interesting conversation today, Bryce. I don't know if there's anything else you want to
I think that's a great place to leave it for. It might take us a few weeks to get through the 3rd tablet, guys, because the 3rd tablet is like the Mac Daddy of the tablets. And I think that's okay. We've got all the time in the world. So I think that to really break it down slowly and discuss these concepts, because wow, do we see them full force. I mean, like I said, 1st tablet, he made it very aware that he was writing for us. And we look at the 3rd tablet, we're like, yep, this is for us.
Absolutely. I love it. Love. Thank you, Brycey, for always bringing your clever little nerdy self. We love you, nerdy. I just love you.
Love learning so much.
For our Mystery Monday, where you just share this lovely knowledge that you go and dig for. So really grateful as always. Thank you. And thank you to our beautiful viewers for tuning in, enjoying our shows as usual. And if you guys haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, all these beautiful things. We're going to be catching up with you again soon, just talking about what the next 60-day challenge next year is going to be about. But we're excited, we're planning, and we're creating and doing all sorts of things around that already. So thank you so much. And take care of yourselves, guys. Love you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.